Please rise for the pledge and remain standing for the prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this beautiful day that we have. Last time we were here praying, we were praying for protection upon citizens from the heat. And here we're thankful to be here this evening with this beautiful day and this beautiful afternoon, the temperatures, and we just thank you also for your help, for the celebrations that many have for the 4th, and we just pray for your hedge of protection upon them to help them celebrate safely. What an honor, what a blessing it is to live in this country and to be free. And we thank you for every man and woman who helped make that possible, past, and those who serve today, and those who will make the decision to serve. We're just blessed beyond measure. We pray for your wisdom and guidance in this meeting this evening, and we thank you for your presence here. In Jesus' mighty name we pray. Amen. All right. Jan, if you would. Roll call.
Brandon Elmore.
Present.
Bob Leahy.
Here.
Jason Brewer.
Here.
Tim Heiss.
Here.
Tito Frias.
Here.
All right. I trust everyone's had an opportunity to view the consent agenda as it was presented in your packets. Do you have any questions? If not, entertain a motion for approval.
I'll move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
We have a first from Tim. Do we have a second? Bob?
Yeah.
Jan, if you would. Or no, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Consent agenda approved as presented. We do have a special presenter tonight from Baker Tilly. And tell you what, we like to save our guests the brunt of the meeting, so we get you right off the bat. So
That's fine.
If you don't mind, I will turn the floor over to you.
Okay. Hello, everyone. For those who don't know me, I'm Jessica Lynch. I'm a director with Baker Tilly. I've been working with Union City for a while now, so but glad to be able to come in person again. So I think you probably saw me on that TV last year. So good. I passed out 2 reports before. These are annual financial management reports for calendar year 2021. Do you have a for water? It's for the utilities.
Whichever you're most comfortable with.
Okay. Water on top, so I guess let's start with that one. A similar format. Changed the format in 2019, so it's the second or third year for this format. If you go to page 2 for the water utility, you'll see that that first table there shows the historical fund balances. This is just the total cash balance for the water utility. So it was pretty steady around 2019 and 2020, around that $650,000 level, and then it increases to about $760,000 at the end of 2021, and we'll get into the reasons behind that increase later in the report. So if you turn to the next page, table 3, or page 3, table 2 and 3 are on this page. So table 2 is just your historical receipts and disbursements. So the majority of your operating disbursements or operating receipts are your metered sales and the revenue from the plant. Disbursements, about a little over half disbursements are your operating disbursements. You'll see your payment in lieu of taxes. That's consistent of $115,600 over. The capital is that gray bar on the disbursement side. So it was around $120,000, went up a little bit in 2020 to $160,000, and then only around $77,000 in 2021. And then the debt, which is the payment on outstanding bonds, is around that $19,000, almost $20,000 every year. Table 3 breaks down your operating disbursements between the major classifications categories. So a little over half of the operating disbursements for the water utility are your personnel. So that's salaries and wages, any taxes, FICA, Medicare, health insurance, any other employee benefits that get paid out of the water utility. The next largest disbursement of the water utility is your electricity or your purchase power. And that's about 16% each year. Then it goes to your other miscellaneous expense, or actually the white one, your insurance. So that's your general liability insurance. So that's not the health insurance. The health insurance is part of the personnel. The insurance here is just the general liability or your property insurance. So those are the major disbursements. On page 4, table 4, so that takes the fund balances from the first table that was on page 2 and breaks it down by the different funds of the water utility. So that top dark green bar, that's for your water tower, the monies that have been set aside for probably tank painting or any maintenance on the water tower. Your depreciation fund is that white section. That's the second one down, and so that's your depreciation fund. That's any money set aside for capital improvements, or payment in lieu of taxes are also another expense that can be paid from that fund. Then you have the blue fund, which is your customer deposits, staying kind of around that $120,000. Then you have your debt service reserve, the $24,000, so that's fully funded on reserve for your outstanding bonds. Your bond and interest also around the $25,000 to make your annual or your semi-annual principal and interest payments. And then your operating fund, you'll see there is that's the bottom bar, the light green. So it was only around $50,000 in 2019, but increased to around $90,000 in 2020 and 2021. And then the dark gray line that goes across the top, those are your required reserves for the water utility based on your outstanding bond ordinance. So seeing that your fund balances are still over what those required reserves are. Then on page 5, table 5 compares your actual receipts for 2021 to the receipts that were budgeted for 2021. You'll see that overall the receipts were about $15,000 over budget. Most of this is due to the second line down, the ethanol plant receipts. I know I think there was an increase to the rate for the ethanol plant, but also there were 13 months of collections in 2021 instead of only 12, so that's why they were over what was budgeted. And then your operating table 6 is your operating disbursements. So compared to the 2021 budget, you were under by $6,000, a little over $6,000. So spending still within what was anticipated for that year. This mainly was offset by the personnel. Some of the categories were over budget, outside services, electricity, but then personnel came in about $35,000 under budget. Then page 6, here we have table 7 and 8, which table 7 is your debt service, and that budget is based off of the amortization schedule for your outstanding bonds from 2009. So those still right on target with those payments. And then capital under budget by about $93,000. That was just, and there's more, it's just due to delaying some of those water main improvement projects. And I believe the budget is later, the detailed capital improvement plan. What makes up that total $170,000 is further on in the report on page 12. So we'll get to that here later. So overall on page 7, it shows you the 2021 budget, where we had anticipated that the cash balances would decrease by about $3,800. In actuality, that from 2021 activity, the cash increased $111,000 just for that 1 year. And that was mainly due to a combination of the 13 months of receipts from the ethanol plant and then also delaying those capital improvements. And then table 9 after that is where we show the operating receipts estimated out for the next 5 years. So without anticipating any rate increases, so I know that right now the water utility is currently going through a rate analysis, so that has not been factored in to these numbers since we're still in process of determining what that percentage will turn out to be. So right now, just to be conservative, we flatlined the metered sales based on what was actually received in 2021. And then you'll see the ethanol plant receipts do decrease about 20,000, so that to normalize for only 12 months of receipts, since 2021 had 13 months in it. Same with the Union City, Ohio receipts, keeping that at the same level as 2021. And then also all the other non-operating and fire protection, keeping that at the same level. For non-operating receipts for interest, we do have that increasing a little bit since their interest rates have been rising, but that'll fluctuate based on what interest rate is offered by your bank in those checking accounts to earn on your cash reserves. And then customer deposits, just assume that those net out the receipts and disbursements in that fund. Then page 8 is your operating disbursements. And so you'll see the actual for 2021, around 542,000 were the actual operating disbursements. That 2022 budget is what was provided to us by JUN. So a slight increase in personnel, but all the other major categories are pretty consistent with what was spent in 2021. And then there each year after 22, we increased 3% for inflation. The one change that we did make from the budget that was provided by JUN is just eliminating that utility receipts tax, since that will no longer need to be paid as of July 1st. So based on House Enrolled Act 1002. Then table 11 is your debt service. Again, that's just based straight from the amortization schedule for those 2009 bonds for the next 5 years. And then estimated capital, the final payments for the loan and the radio read meters were in 2021, so we have those payments no longer being made in the next 5 years. But then we have an amount for just other capital improvements that will be detailed on page 12. And so you'll see here, based on those receipts and disbursements, that it's anticipated that cash reserves will be depleted each of the next 5 years. And probably we had seen that in the last couple reports, which is what's driving doing the rate analysis that we're working through right now. Page 10, which has table 13. So this also shows, due to those depletion of cash reserves over the next 5 years, shows that your total cash balances will, at the end of 2022, they'll match exactly the required or recommended reserves per your outstanding bond ordinance. But if the cash continues to be depleted, that the water utility will not be able to meet those minimum requirements anymore. So that's where that green bar is larger than that blue or teal bar. And then table 14 shows the rates of the sewer and water for Union City compared to the state average for a community of Union City size. So it's kind of always a moving bar with this one, but shows that the sewer rates are higher than the average by about $20, but then the average water rates are under by about $10. And then just page 11, that's your amortization schedule for the 2009 bonds. Final maturity on those is in January of 2029. And then page 12 is the capital budget. So this details the total dollar amounts that we saw on the previous tables, and this information was provided by Monty. And so you'll see there's a line there that says plus less amounts deferred. So basically the water utility you're still depleting cash reserves and still not being able to afford all of these capital improvements. The South Plant improvements, I know that's at $834,000, so that project would need to be delayed. You see, like in calendar year 2023 or 2024, that line item, we were deferring over $1 million in capital improvements and still deferring in 25 and 26. So we just we adjusted the totals just to do a flat line of around 120,000 based on what's been spent in capital historically, but some of these larger improvements, to be able to fund these, we need to think about other financing or a rate increase to build up cash reserves for those. And then the page 13, that's your current rates that were adopted in 2016. And then the last page there is the comparison of Union City with similar sized Indiana communities. So seeing that Union City's based on an average usage of 4,000 gallons or 533 cubic feet is towards the lower end of the average rates of a community of its size. Any questions on the water utility?
I don't know if it's a question necessarily for you, but
Okay.
looking at the Ohio receipts here, I know we talk annually about rate increases, and I think we're locked at a 2% rate increase, but seeing here what the receipts are actually from Ohio, it is significantly less than what our citizens are paying for water. You know, if you look at it on a population basis, I mean, we're not an equal, you know, a playing field. It's not an apples by apples comparison, but it looks like, you know, we've got, you know, 2/3 of the entire Union City population, and accounting for both Ohio and Indiana, but we're paying about 85, almost 86% of the total metered rate of water. That just seemed very lopsided to me that the Indiana side is paying so much more for water compared to Ohio. Is there anything we can do to renegotiate that contract with them? I know we're kind of locked into a 2% rate increase, but that seems significantly out of line.
Well, you keep in mind that that's just the portion that we charge for the water. They're charging everything that they have to do to service their system in terms of lines, personnel, everything that they have. So when we look at that receipt, that's the wholesale price, basically. So
I never thought of it that way,
now,
but yeah.
that may not be a balance, but
Right.
it's a big portion of it. So, because they probably pay about twice what we charge for the water.
They
I
do.
think, is that about right?
Yes.
The citizens
So the
themselves.
citizens themselves,
Yeah.
because they have to pay for everything it takes to get the
The
water.
water.
Now, if we were running their entire system, that'd be a whole different story. We'd be
Gotcha.
basically charging them the same as we do our rate, and then we'd probably just be doing, you know, if we owned took care of the whole system, it'd be completely different. But-
That's a good point, Sam. I never really
Yeah.
thought about it
But
that
yeah,
way.
but it's a good question, because it's, anybody, you know, citizens will look at that and go, why are they only paying this amount of money? But we're just selling them exclusively the water. It's up to them to distribute it.
Gotcha.
And I know I don't have the report with me, but I know when we did the analysis for the ethanol plant rate, that we also did calculate a adjusted rate for the Union City, Ohio in that report from last year. I think it was early 2021 when we did that. But I think it was decided not to increase their rates. I don't think it was ever moved forward with that schedule anyway. But that's something we can provide you. I can find that report and resend it to you guys if you want to see what that calculation was.
Yeah,
I
no,
think the
every
ethanol
year
plant, we
that
did
I've
increase it.
We've recalculated it or increased the rates. Yeah. Anytime it's come
I
up.
thought when you did that study, I thought we did increase it.
Did you?
It's
Okay.
been a few years ago.
It may not be calculated in your forecast, but I know we did increase it anytime it's come up.
Yeah, I knew we had provided it as part of the
I would
ethanol
look,
plan.
because I know we've increased it, and then
Okay.
every year since then, we have the 2% increase, which is time to let them know, but I mean, it's pretty much says in there, we're gonna do that. So I have to send them a letter to tell them we increase it by 2%, I think it's so.
It's unfortunate, it's locked at 2%. I mean, with inflation rates, it seems like we're just falling behind even by increasing it 2%.
Well, we can always, the contract's renegotiable though, if we decide we wanna do that, that's only year to year. I think it automatically renews unless we wanna change it. I think that's the way it's written, I'd have to look at it, but I'm pretty sure. So if we wanna revisit that, we can.
Sewage works. So same format as the water utility report. Moving to page 2. Again, this first table here shows the total cash balance of the sewage works. So increasing in 2019, you had about $1.5 million as the total cash balance, increasing to 1.9 million in 2020, and then a little over 2 million in 2021. And I believe that there was a rate increase that contributed to building up those cash balances. And so turning to page 3, we'll see the receipt and disbursement history here on table 2. A little different story than the water utility. You'll see that the operating receipts is that white bar at the bottom, so around 1.2 million, increasing to 1.3 million in 2021 with that rate increase. But then the non-operating receipts, which is that dark green bar, being around 3 million in 2019, and then increasing to over 10 million in 2020 and 8 million, a little over 8 million in 2021. And that's just due to the receipt of the band proceeds in 2019, and then the rural development bond proceeds, and then also spending the money down on the project that was funded by the rural development bond proceeds. And rural development does that through a ban as well. So there was a ban through rural development in 2020, and then in 2021 they issued long-term bonds to pay off those bans. So that's where you see those large, the green, dark green for those proceeds on the receipt side, and then gray for the capital projects on the disbursement side in 19 and 20, and then the blue is the debt in 2021 that's paying off those bans, the 8.6 or 7 million. And then the operating disbursements staying pretty consistent. That's the light blue, around 550,000, increased a little in 2021 to around 600,000. But you'll see the breakdown of that on table 3 between the major classifications. So percentage-wise of that total, pretty consistent. 19, 20, and 21, a little over half again of the operating disbursements are your personnel. And then the next largest is pretty close between purchase power and your repairs and maintenance. And then other operating is that 11%, so that's any other miscellaneous items, maybe item fees, that kind of your MPDS permit, those types of items. Page 4, table 4, so that's the breakdown of those cash balances. So you'll see that dark green bar, so that was what was remaining in the construction fund, because a lot of those bond proceeds were spent in the same year that they were received on the capital projects or on paying off the bond anticipation notes. The depreciation fund, so that's again to help fund capital improvements. So that increased a little bit from 2019 to 2020 to about 1.3 million. And then again in 2021 to a little over 1.5 million. And I believe, Jan, you have the practice of keeping your operating around a certain level, and you just transfer anything above that level to the depreciation fund, correct? Yeah. And then, so that light blue is your debt service reserve amount. So currently, at 190,242, so that's increased a little bit with the issuance of the new bonds, and still being funded. Rural Development's policy is that you have 10 years to fund that debt service reserve requirement, but it builds up to be 1 year's debt service payment on the bonds. So still making annual or monthly transfers to that fund from the operating as well. And then your bond and interest, that's just your monthly transfers to make those payments, the principal and interest payments on the rural development bonds. And then that bottom bar is your operating fund, staying around that 110, 115,000. Page 5 is table 5, shows the 2021 actual receipts compared to the 2021 budget. So see those a little higher than what was budgeted, mainly due to receiving more in your collection and treatment services based on that phase 2 of the adopted rate increase going into effect. And also, I know there have been some stormwater leaks at a trailer park that are expected to continue. They're not fixing that, and so that's something that wasn't considered in the 2021 budget. Table 6, your operating disbursements. So the actual disbursements for 2021 came in $95,000 under what was budgeted. A lot of that was in personnel and purchase power, but the majority of it that was under budget was repairs and maintenance. Page 6, in table 7. So the difference here, the 2021 actual and the 2021 budget is just based on not having that the actual long-term debt service for the rural development bonds when the 2021 budget was prepared. And we had anticipated having a principal and interest payment on that debt, and the way the amortization schedule was structured, there was not those payments. It was just an interest payment that was made in 2021. But then you also see the activity of paying off those bands, the 2019 bands. And the capital will, as the same with the water utility, there's further detail later in the report for that. So you'll see at the top of page 7, the 2021 budget had estimated depleting cash by $182,000 when actual activity for 2021 increased cash by $155,000. Then table 9 shows our estimated receipts. So you'll see the collection and treatment services increasing for 2022 based on phase 3 of the rate increase that was effective January 1 of this year of 2022. Keeping the trailer park stormwater infiltration without that being fixed and anticipating that to continue, just kept it consistent with what was paid or received in 2021. And then the non-operating, you'll see the bond proceeds, the rural development bond proceeds of over $8.3 million, which was to pay off those bans. And on page 8, table 10 is your estimated operating disbursements. So again, 2022, based on the budget that was provided to us by JUN, seeing that the disbursements in 2021 totaled around $600,000, that increasing to $713,000 in 2022. Most of those increases are in personnel and purchase power with the rising electricity costs, and then repairs and maintenance with the supply chain and increase. We're seeing lots of increases all throughout the state, building materials and those kind of things for maintenance. And then table 11, the estimated debt service. So in 2021, you'll see the actual debt service payments and then paying off those 2019 bans. But 22 through 26 are based on the actual amortization schedule for the 2021 rural development bonds. Page 9, you'll see the table 12 with the estimated capital at $155,000, and that we'll have more detail on that on page 13. But you'll see here at the bottom of this page shows comparing the receipts, all of the receipts of the sewage works to the disbursements of the sewage works, increasing cash balances this year and the next few years, but may see slight decreases when we get out to years 25 and 26. Page 10 shows table 13, so a different story here than the water utility, where your cash balances compared to what's required is very healthy. well above the required reserves per the bond ordinance for your outstanding rural development bonds. And then the same, table 14 is the same table there, comparing the sewer and the water rates to the state average. And page 11 shows, page 11 and 12 actually is the amortization schedule for those outstanding rural development bonds that were issued last year. So annual payments of around $268,000. And page 13 is the capital improvement budget. We just put in a kind of a placeholder here based on what's been spent historically on capital improvements of $105,000. The only real solidified capital project was this lateral replacement rehabilitation program of about $50,000 a year. So to the extent that the capital would come in under what was budgeted, you would increase your cash reserves more by that amount. And then page 14 shows the rates that were in place in 2021, and then also the phase 3 rates that were effective in the beginning of 2022. Then page 15 shows, again, this comparison graph of local and similar sized Indiana communities. If their flow was 4,000 gallons of sewer, then the average rate for that, or the rate that would be charged for that, so Union City, a little over the middle on this graph for the sewage works. Any questions on that? Yes.
I have a question on table 7 of the sewage. Does that mean we're not paying off our debt?
No, so table 7, it was just the, when we prepared the 2021 budget, we had anticipated there was gonna be a principal payment in 21, but whenever we worked out the closing date with rural development, the way the amortization schedule was structured was not to make a principal payment until 2022.
Okay, so we haven't stopped paying regularly.
No, it just hadn't started yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Well, it's sure nice having you here in person.
All right. Well, thank you. I'm glad I could
Progress.
make it.
Yeah, that's great progress compared to a year ago.
Right. It's nice to get out
Yeah, I
once
bet.
in a while.
Yes, I bet.
Well, thank you for having me. It's
for
nice to
coming.
see everyone. Jan, I'll go ahead and give you, if you want to keep these too, just for extra copies. So,
Okay.
all right.
And now next year I'll know which door to go into.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very
Bye.
much. Have a great evening.
You too.
All right, moving along, department reports. Very proud to announce that received notification as last week approached its close that the rural development awarded a $97,750 grant toward Vision Corner. So we earned an additional grant for Vision Corner that was announced last week. And then this Friday, July 1st, which that sounds amazing, I can't believe I'm saying that. July 1st, this Friday at 5:30 is the flag raising, the inaugural flag raising down here on Broadway. For those who don't know where Broadway is, it's down here where the old bank parking lot was for Union Trust. And if they don't know where that is, it's right across the street from State Farm offices. So that's Broadway actually. So we will have Pearl Street closed off in that area, and we'll have a ceremony that commences at 5:30. Flag will be raised at 5:43, and the ceremony will be done at 5:55. So
I have a question on that.
yes, absolutely.
Will we have Union City flags for sale?
Yes, we will have a table set up.
There won't be any flags for sale. There will be order forms.
Well, order forms, yeah,
Order
to
forms.
purchase flags, yeah.
Do we know the prices yet?
Mm-hmm.
I sent you a message on Messenger for that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying.
Well, I was just
They're,
hoping to have it for the public.
$40 for the garden size flag, 12 by 18, and $60 for a 3x5 pole flag. And a little bit small percentage of the proceeds from that, because we're not really making any money, but there is a little bit that goes to preservation.
So, so I encourage everybody that can hear my voice to come see that, and if you guys spread the word, family, friends, any neighbors, encourage them to come out, because it really is, it's a piece of history. It's pretty cool, because there's not too many communities in the United States that share a state line, and then furthermore, there's not too many communities that we have two cities that have the same flag. So it's pretty cool. That's all I have. Jan, do you have anything?
No.
Council members. Brandon, let's start with you.
I had a conversation yesterday with County Assessor George Castor,
Mm-hmm.
and he's well aware of the developments with the housing development out on Plum Street, but he wanted to make sure that we were had it in the works to annex all the property that would be developed in that area if it isn't already annexed. Is that the case? I mean, do we have that in the works? And as well as Park Avenue, you mentioned that as well. Is there anything in the works that there's anything that needs to be annexed there that hasn't already been?
I'm not aware of anything that hasn't been.
It's my understanding that the farm ground where we're building the housing development is currently annexed into the city. There is a section of Park Avenue that is not annexed into the city, but I believe the reason that it's never been initiated for the annexation is going to be a non-issue, and that area should also be annexed.
Okay. He made it sound like that there was a portion of the Plum Street development that may not have been annexed just yet.
There is one parcel that we just found when we filed for the deed that is, I don't even know if I had the map and I showed you the parcel that's not annexed, there's no logical explanation for how one rectangle size shape piece of property in that whole entire 50-acre field is not annexed, but there is actually one parcel.
And that may be exactly what he's talking about.
And Ryan, the city attorney, is working on getting that taken care of.
Okay, he's aware. So, okay.
Correct. We
All right.
are aware.
Very good. That's all I had.
Not a good question. Bob.
Last week we had an area plan commission meeting. It was Winchester Business. They approved the North Subdivision Phase 2 upon the Drainage Board approval for their plans.
Okay.
And then I just had a question about, we were bringing dirt in at the park for around the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
And then also want to see if we could get some for the ruts, the tire ruts there on the central or the center.
Yeah, where they were created last.
Yeah.
Yes.
Get that filled in. Maybe we can get some grass, going maybe towards the fall or something when it's.
That is on the list of
Okay.
things to address with the park. It hasn't been done yet, but we have a new.
I know. Well, that's until recently. It's been really, there was still water standing in it.
Right.
So it actually, dried off a little bit. So it really wasn't worth, putting too much effort into it. At that
Yeah,
time.
I would anticipate some pretty significant changes to the park in the very near future.
Okay. Great. That's all I have.
Well, speaking about the park, I had one thing I was remiss to not mention. So there was a decision made around the pool area, the back entrance to the pool where the swim team typically uses, to not allow parking on the grass anymore. What came about with that decision? Because it kind of caught some families off guard that have been parking back there for swim meets and swim practices
I
for a long time.
honestly know nothing about that decision. I'll have to find
Yeah.
out.
Could you clarify? As in, they're parking not allowed, or they are allowed?
They're not allowed. They've always done it.
Oh, and for some reason, somebody now is saying they're not allowed.
Right. There's a sign up.
Oh,
Okay.
I would have no idea why
That's
that
in
would
the-
be.
That's in the grass.
Yeah. There's a back entrance to the pool, but there's a concession stand that the swim team uses, and for swim meets we don't go through the main entrance, we go through
Right.
the back gated entrance, and that there's a kind of a pathway there that typically we've used to then drive in.
Is that the path between the park barn and the pool
Yes.
fence?
Yes.
Is your head-
There,
okay.
there would be no reason why that's no parking.
Yeah, but that's just for personnel who are part of the swim team, correct?
That's typically what it's been used for. Yeah.
So it would be good for us to have a sign that actually says parking for swim team personnel only.
Well,
Well, it's also
I've,
been visiting teams.
the
Well,
visiting
okay,
teams
well.
park out there. I mean, there's no reason not to park there. I'll take care of that tomorrow
Okay,
morning.
that'd be great. Yeah, I don't know how or why that sign got there.
Because they pull the horse trailers and everything else.
Yeah, that,
you know,
I mean,
people
that's
that camp out with
access
the
to that
horse
whole
trailer.
grass area.
Yeah.
So we'll take care of that.
It may be
Yeah, we'll take care of that.
It may be centered around daytime hours for general swimming, open swimming, during the week, when it's, so the park personnel can work, but that wouldn't apply, when it comes to
For the swim meets.
swim meets,
Right.
events like that,
Yeah.
we can,
I actually wondered why the swim team was parking in the parking lot because
Now you know.
I know.
yeah.
Well, thank you. I think some families kind of took offense to it, and they've been doing it for a long time.
My guess, Brandon, is they did some. They took those pine trees out and they made some modifications late in the fall, and my guess is they put those signs up with little to no conversation with anybody, and it wasn't during swim season, so I think it just happened. And
I think it was just last week it was actually put up, not
I would have no idea why that was done, but I'll take care of it.
Yeah, if you could look into it, that would be great.
If you don't mind, extend our apologies that we didn't mean to create such havoc. So,
Well, thank you.
I've been by there all week, and the parking lot's full of cars.
Yeah.
Bob, anything else?
Sorry, I didn't mean that.
No, sorry. I'm
Okay. No, you're good. You're good.
Thank you.
Jason?
I think this was brought up a few meetings ago before I joined. I think Tito talked about it. The golf carts on 28. I've had some concerns again. Lenox Avenue, Fairfax Avenue, people not being able to see traffic either coming from the right or left, and then deciding to detour and go around the block just to maybe they want to go to the grocery store or Pizza Hut or shoot across. And yeah, so instead of shooting across, they take the long way around, and so they said the carts are still there. It's causing a nuisance. Can't see, dangerous.
It's the carts that are parked like right along the curve as you come
Okay.
into Columbia
Yeah,
Street.
absolutely.
And he had moved some, but apparently he's not moved enough.
Right.
Is what it is.
He's still there. It's a work in progress. He's had some supply chain issues finishing up the building, getting the fence re-engaged, and those things. So he's working on getting them moved, but physically there's no place to put them right at the moment. So
Does he have any more space on that lot where he parks? Is he still parking carts on
he
Dana's?
still has some there, but
Yeah.
he's trying to get those off.
Okay.
So it's just a timing issue.
If
And again, I understand it's an inconvenience, and I don't want to see somebody have an accident, but to date, we've had 0 traffic incidents at that area also. So I get it,
But I hate to wait until that would happen.
and I don't disagree,
Right.
and we're working diligently to get it done, but they got to get their barn done.
Well, how many are we talking to? We just talking like 5? How many
No,
is
there's-
along there?
There's probably 15 to 18 golf carts sitting there.
Along the edge of the curb?
Then they park their personal vehicles there too, I guess, as well. So that just adds to the.
Yeah.
That's on the Lennox side. Yeah.
Yeah.
Does the city still have we still have the property west of the, I guess with the old auction barn, or did the city still have that property there that they could use to
Yeah.
store?
Oh, there's an idea.
Yeah, that is our lot.
It wouldn't be, I mean, it wouldn't be an issue other than maybe mowing if they put,
Right.
some carts down there temporarily to.
That's
Yeah.
why they were staged where they were, because that was a paved lot, so that it wasn't
Well,
going to be an issue
that's-
for mowing
yeah,
around
I
there.
can understand that too, yeah.
Yeah, why don't we see if we can
But
get-
even that old auction barn has like a, I don't know what that's called, like an area, like a parking area that
Yeah.
no one uses. Maybe they could use those for
They
temporary.
have auctions there on a regular basis.
Oh, do
Well, let's talk about that because I think there might be an opportunity to shuffle just a few more. Because it's the guys, it's people that are coming off of Lennox and they're not able to see left.
right.
Yeah.
And then off of Fairfax, they cannot see from the right.
Even if you're coming
well-
towards, yeah, even if you're approaching the curve on.
That's just a bad
180,
spot, period.
If
because
you want
there's
to
a
go to Deerfield, you still, sometimes there's a car right on top of you when you try, when you're trying to go straight on rather than go around the curve too.
Right. Have you guys had any, to Steve's point, have you guys had any issues there in terms of,
No, not to my knowledge yet.
okay.
I'll have a conversation with him tomorrow.
Well, there's a fine line. I don't want to kill an ant with a hammer, but at the same time, also to Jason's point, I don't want to hear concern expressed and then not act and then have something happen and knowing concern was expressed. So, yeah. So if there's got to be a happy medium there. If we can see if we can utilize some of our ground to help him. Anything else?
Yes, we'll talk about my street, Oak Street. From High Street down to Mulberry, it's like a racetrack drag strip. I mean, you got cars leaving High Street hitting 40 mile an hour.
Oh,
I'm only 5 houses down. They're doing 45 mile an hour before they hit my house. This is a straight shot. Be great if we could get, I know we can't put a stop sign there, I understand that. Maybe more police presence in that lot across the street where they're building those new houses. Occasionally officers sitting there randomly. And if you would sit in my drive, we hand out tickets every 20 minutes. And you got kids walking in from the pool on their bikes, walking their dogs, golf carts, pets, kids next door to me. And again, a matter of time.
Is it both ways or is it more one way?
It's both ways, but I'd say 70% it's coming from High Street heading west.
This
Okay.
is the same conversation we have about
Vision.
Vision,
Yep. And
Hickory, Oak, and you've got two options: speed bumps or stop signs at every intersection, and you'll have people furious about either one of them. So,
Yeah, I think just more random police presence for
Just
right
sitting
now
there.
at least, and I'll have Kobe put the speed sign down there for more than a day this time.
Yeah, if you could put the sign out, that'd be,
Yeah, at least.
The one with the radar.
yeah, great.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
Nope, that is it.
All right. Tim?
Don't really have anything other than the activity at the Howard Street rail crossing and between Chestnut and Pearl, and Steve may cover that. I don't know if you were going to cover that, Steve, or not.
no, I
About the
can't.
water main. But I'll let Steve talk about the water main repair if he'd like to.
Okay. Cool. Tito?
Yeah, I had several people, mostly in the northern part of town, complaining about large, disturbing booms, loud booms.
We hear it too.
I actually heard one myself. I mean, I heard a few like inside the house. I heard one when I was in my backyard on June 18th at about 1:20 p.m. Not an expert, but it sounded really weird, like either a sonic boom or a, like an earthquake type. But it was loud for sure. So a lot of people have heard them for a couple weeks. They think it might be coming from like North Columbia Street area. And they haven't heard anything, or we haven't heard anything for a few days. But they are very loud, and people are frightened, dogs freak out. And
Yeah, it's frustrating because G and I hear it too, and In fact, I was mowing yard one afternoon when it happened, and I thought something had backfired because I had the loud engine of the mower right in my ear, and still heard it. And our best bet is, this is where we've talked about community in the past. We need the community's help because, to be honest, for the poor policeman, I mean, that's catching lightning in a bottle. To actually be able to know exactly where it's coming from or to be in the exact spot when it goes off, that's, your odds are better hitting the lottery. So we've got to step up as a community, and somebody's got to be noticing this to a large degree next door. I'm telling you what, if my neighbors are setting off that sound on in either yard next to me, I'm hearing that, and I'm saying something. That's what we need. We've got to have the neighbors step up, because this has got to be emanating from somewhere distinctly, in which case we could go on someone's word, say, hey, I know what's going on, I know where it's coming from, I'm bringing this forward anonymously, because I understand maybe if somebody doesn't want to get in a neighborly squabble, but that's our best bet.
So
It
just
really
for
is.
the public's knowledge, I mean, what are the days where fireworks are allowed in the state?
It's a week before the 4th, correct,
Is it
Jan?
7 days or?
I've got to check, let me see if I can pull up the ordinance.
I mean, I don't think that's the full thing. I mean, but maybe public education about the allowed days.
And that's just it. I don't think, yeah, I agree. That's a great point. I don't think it's that, though.
Yeah,
I've heard somebody speculate to be like was it a bird cannon? Is that what's going on?
It's they're setting off tannerite, is what they're
Or
doing.
tannerite.
Right. Didn't we have an issue with that last year?
Yeah, and
On the south,
to
west
to
side
to,
of
to
UCL.
Chad's point, I have, as soon as I hear it, I have gotten in my vehicle. I have driven to the area that it's coming from. I witness nobody outside. I witness no gathering of people. It is absolutely the strangest thing that I'm having to deal with. I've done that a half a dozen times. My phone and Facebook blows up like everybody else's does when it goes off. So I am desperately looking. The police are looking while I'm driving around. There's police cars in the immediate area as well. Somebody knows exactly who's doing it. It's being done deliberately, and it needs to stop. But until somebody reports who is actually doing it, there's
Right.
little to nothing that we can do.
Right.
And keep in mind, even though it's a nuisance, tannerite people's allowed to have it.
It's legal.
They
In
just
town?
horse around with it. So the only thing we can do is probably a nuisance ordinance. So
And I don't have any real experience with it, but it's fairly versatile and fairly easy to detonate, and can be detonated remotely pretty easily. So there again, somebody could have a remote detonation, way to remotely detonate it. Of course, a lot of times people detonate it with firearms, which isn't as likely in town.
and if somebody knows an address, just call dispatch and report it, and we'll address it. We get it, but it's just.
So
Yeah, I'm suffering through it too. I mean, I saw a video that was very disturbing of somebody posted their poor dog. It was just shaking
oh, yeah.
like crazy. I feel awful about that. But I can't stress this enough. None of us in this room are setting that off, and none of our police are. None of our. It's not us. We want to fix it. We don't want to go through it any more than anybody else. But we need people's help.
And just,
People need to step up.
Just for clarification, we are zeroing in on a couple of probabilities in the Fairfax and Lenox Avenue, the same general area of several other complaints. So we're zeroing in, but we have to literally. It's like proving arson. You have to literally see somebody putting open flame to a fuel source so that it catches fire. It's almost impossible to prove.
It's nice being on the south side right now.
Yeah.
At least it's not real loud. Doesn't make it
Um,
Doesn't make
Gosh, I
it
thought I
real
could get close.
Sometimes we're all too poor to
Yeah.
While I'm checking here, Tito, did you have other things you wanted to?
Yeah, in connection with that, the the individual who contacted me about that said that she and some of the neighbors had made some calls to the police department at about 2:30 in the afternoon. Oh, it was during a weekday, and there was no answer. That they tried repeatedly, didn't answer. No callback. Do we have an answering machine over there?
It should go to answering machine. There's somebody in the office until 3 p.m. and that's Monday through Thursday. So if they called on a Friday, there's nobody in the office. Again, I can't stress enough, please contact dispatch. You can call 584-1721 or you can dial 911.
Yeah, do we know by chance if they were doing either, if they were calling dispatch?
They were
or
doing
911?
both. They did both.
They called 911?
Yeah.
Okay. Then we should have a record of that at the county.
You know what day that was?
No, I can find out.
Yeah, if you could, that'd be great. Because we follow up on that, because there has been once in a blue moon where unfortunately the communication didn't take place from one end to our end. And so I always need to follow up on that if that's the case.
The complainant is advising that they saw no police officer reported to their address?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember
That
seeing
was,
it before.
for the-
I didn't mean for you. I didn't know if you knew off the top of your head, because it's driving me nuts.
I will need the name and
Look,
address.
yeah, I've been looking
date
for it, because
and
I wanted to
time.
state it, because now's
I'll
the
need
time
their
to
name, the
get it out there.
date and time, and their address.
Two more things real quick.
Absolutely.
The Comcate, what that we talked about last,
Yes.
the tracking the ordinance. When will we get a link? Because they said we would have access to it. Is that up? I mean, are we going to getting a link soon? Or
Tito, I sent it to you
oh, you did
in a text message.
in a text message. Okay.
At the meeting last week. Everybody else
Okay.
got it. I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll check that. And if not, I'll. Okay. Also, I noticed as I was reading through the packet, and I noticed that in the Board of Works minutes, so their last meeting, not today's meeting, but the last meeting, there was a reference to the fact that Union City had not been following the property condemnation process that is laid out in our ordinances, and the Board of Works has now decided to follow the ordinances. So, I mean, for the public and for myself, I'd like to understand what is changing now.
We were doing more steps than necessary. We were sending things to the county,
To
whereas
circuit court.
Yeah, circuit court, whereas our ordinance is actually written where our Board of Works actually has authority in this
Okay.
matter. And so it's helped us be more expedient
Aha.
going forward. So
Okay.
hopefully this helps immensely.
Very
So
good.
anybody, the neighbors that are frustrated out there with a lengthy process that we used to have to endure, we're hoping this nips it in the bud.
Very good.
And we actually held our first appeal hearing today, or had our first appeal to condemnation today that we held.
So the owner
The
appealed.
owner, yes, yeah, the owner was there and appealed, and we worked with the owner on the particular property, and I think we got I think we got something positive on that property, and we have several other properties that we'll be addressing here shortly, but it's going to make the process, that there's still a mechanism that the property owners can further appeal, can appeal to the court, but it's basically on process that that they can appeal that we didn't follow the proper process, but it allows us to make our decisions on these as opposed to being at the mercy of a judge
Aha.
to hope that the
So a
judge
little
does
faster anyway.
faster, yeah, more home rule. And it's in the ordinance, it's not been done that way for a long, long time, and so that now it's been figured out that we can do this way. So.
Great. That's all I have. Thank you.
No, good stuff. Steve?
This North Howard Street Railroad crossing, for decades, and I used the term decades, that area, the whole entire railroad bed from Howard Street to Walnut Street at times has displaced a large volume of water out of the rock bed. We deal with it at the old First Merchants Bank building. We deal with it at Packasack, at Napa, at Montana Lumber. We've dealt with volumes of water. We have put it underground through a French drain. We have got it to the storm as quick as possible. We've had freezing incidents. We have done our due diligence multiple times. It's been unearthed multiple times. Because it ran underneath the rail, though, there was only so much that we could detect because we couldn't stop train traffic and tear everything up. We couldn't do all those things. So we've had leak detector companies in listening to our water lines, our water mains, listening for leaks. We've done everything we can do over many years, revealing nothing. No leak. At times it would test positive for chlorine, at other times it would test negative for chlorine, or very little small trace amounts of chlorine. So until about 10 or 12 days ago, K.I.S.S showed up and said, you have to fix your water line. The track has been literally deemed unsafe for high-speed rail because of that crossing. It's too soft. So they removed all the asphalt out of the track, and as soon as that asphalt was removed, we had multiple bubbles of multiple puddles of clear water have a little bit of movement in it, meaning there's something creating a current. Tested hot for chlorine, and it was cold, so we knew that it was from a main. Took all the necessary steps to repair it, hired coolies. I sent you an email pertaining to the cost and the expense of that. All the work is done. It's all put to bed. It's all buttoned up. Long story short, what we could measure, it's a pretty strong belief that what we were able to measure, we were losing about 2.6 million gallons of water a year. That's been over decades, and we're confident we were only measuring a small percentage of it, because it wasn't just taking a simple one path travel to get out. It was dispersing through a wide area. So we've been losing a lot of water. Every single thing, our water loss audit, are the listening devices and the companies we've hired to do those third-party evaluations have not identified this. We've dealt with it the best we can. The old-timers, people that have worked in the city, people that have worked the rail, oh, that's just a natural spring, you're not losing any water, this and that. Well, the reality is we put line stops in, put new valves in, shut that sucker down, the water dried up, everything stopped going to the French drain, and we knew for positive that that's what was causing it. So that problem has been fixed. It has a new water main underneath the tracks, and they said it's a 100-year pipe that we put in the ground. So I'm assuming nobody's got anything to worry about for a while.
Good.
Yeah, there was, and as Steve said, there was about just what Brad measured out of the one spot, the one drain, was about 4.5 gallons a minute. And that's just the one spot. And that once the lines are off, that 4.5 gallon a minute dwindled to nothing after a period of time. Once the saturation went away, and once it quit running, that went away and basically stopped. So
Verifying it was not a natural spring.
that it was not a spring.
Oh, mercy.
So, but I'll add to what Steve said by saying that our people did a really good job getting with it and making this happen. Had to happen in a short period of time. And hats off to Cooley Contracting for their work. They came in, hit it, did everything. It went off flawlessly. Didn't miss a beat. it was, watching them slide that 120 feet of 12-inch pipe inside the 16-inch main that was 100 years old, over 100 years old, was a little bit unnerving to see, because you wonder, is there gonna be something that's gonna stop it? Went right in, they went through that Thursday, those guys worked a long, hard day and did a great job, so.
In hot weather too.
In hot weather. And, those Cooley guys worked all day long till 6 o'clock and skipped lunch,
Wow.
so.
They're a huge blessing to the county.
So,
The crossing will be open tomorrow
the
morning
crossing will be open.
at 7 a.m. It's been re-asphalted today.
The
and-
train traffic, was that halted just for any time?
No, it never stopped at all. They just removed all the asphalt
I
out of
didn't
the
think
crossing.
it did, but I wasn't sure if they had to stop it for just,
No,
a short period.
they
of time.
slowed it down. They
Yeah.
couldn't go through there at 70 mile an
Right,
hour,
yeah.
but no, it never stopped one train.
So now it's gonna go back up to 70 miles an hour?
Yeah.
They call it high speed rail for a reason.
Alright, so no more going around the rail guards,
Good point.
folks, because
Being fortunate that nothing happened, no disaster happened, in a long period of time that there was a leak.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
we had basically two customers that had interruption. One of them was the car wash and the other was Napa. They were the only ones that had any interruption of service.
Yeah, in the grand scheme
And
of
their
things, that's
interruption was
good.
minimal.
I mean, you don't want anything, unfortunately, actually, but considering the scope of the situation, that was.
And all the testing has been done and everything's back to normal. So
Anything else?
that's all I got.
All right. Well, I've got an update before we throw it up to Bob to see if he wants to address anything. Fireworks in the ordinance, which is 92.22 in our ordinances, and you can get your ordinances anytime on the city website. Our city website is unioncity.com. So if anybody's wondering the address, if you want to look up ordinances for yourself, it's unioncity-in.com. Unioncity-in.com is our city website, and under resident services or resident hub, you can find our city ordinances. And 92.22 is between the hours of 5 and 2 hours after sunset, which is about midnight. Because actually not quite midnight, because sunset's 9:30 something, somewhere through there. On June 29th, June 30th, so we're not even there yet. We'll be there, tomorrow? Or the day after? What's the date? It's 27th?
Thursday.
So we'll be there Wednesday. June 29th, June 30th, July 1st, 2nd, 3rd, obviously, and then, according to ordinances, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th. So starting Wednesday through July 9th, fireworks can be set off between the hours of 5 p.m. and 2 hours after sunset. On July 4th, and only on July 4th, fireworks between the hours of 10 a.m. in the morning and midnight. And then here's a little known fact. Between the hours of 10 a.m. on December 31st and 1 a.m. on January 1st, you can set off fireworks. So, just a heads up that's, yes, Bob.
And I just happened to look at the early bird today, and it has Ohio hours, and then they have every holiday.
Yeah, that's state
Memorial
statute.
Day, Labor Day, 4th of July.
Arbor Day.
Birthdays, anniversaries, those are all.
New Year's Eve, and theirs goes from I think it's like the week before the 4th of July holiday and the week after.
Okay.
And they were like till 11. I think they shut it down at 11 p.m. But basically about the same thing. But they're at basically every celebration that you can think of.
Okay. But again,
It's just in the current.
just a heads up for people that hear them.
They could be
on the Ohio side
over there,
right?
But it's just in the current early bird that just landed on the doorstep this weekend. So.
That's a good heads up. And the ear can be deceiving because I mean, good grief, I can see Ohio from my back,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, where we live.
Like
So
throw a rock across the town.
yeah. So I mean, it's if people set them off over there, it could sound like it's in our own neighborhood, but it's maybe not necessarily. But anyway, yeah, we're not trying to keep anybody from having fun, but these are set up for everybody's protection, I guess, if you will. Because keep in mind, one thing that I didn't think about as a kid or for a long time as an adult, even, and now I've gained a little bit of perspective by the grace of God. Fireworks are not the best time of the year for a lot of folks. We have a lot of people that have served our country, and the sound of fireworks going off is not a very pleasant sound. And it can be a very tough time of the year for some of our veterans who have served. And I can't even imagine what that's like to go through. So keep in mind, yeah, it's all good and well to have fun, but there's a reason why these these ordinances are in place. It's to maintain some level of conduct and respect for our citizens, knowing that many people have walked different paths in life. And so what might be one person's fun could be another person's nightmare for the evening. So
With that in mind also, that just for everybody's knowledge, that the hours, if anybody would like to see us change those hours we are prescribed by the state statute.
Yep.
We didn't really have any choice on,
Right.
when we passed this ordinance,
Yeah.
we were prescribed by the state that these are the times.
exactly.
So you'd have to appeal to your state
Yes.
legislature. Because we don't have any say in those
Yeah.
hours.
Don't come here.
And pets too.
Yeah, amen. Absolutely.
He's terrified
Oh.
when he hears
Yeah,
my dog.
absolutely. And there's a lot of pet owners out there, so absolutely. So, all right, Bob, did you have anything?
I'm the only visitor, yeah.
Okay.
No, I would note that I think that ordinance also specifies where you can set off your personal fireworks. One year we had somebody setting them off in the street and they were landing on our roof.
Oh, mercy.
And I was somewhat disturbed by that.
Absolutely.
Just a little bit.
It's addressed, is it addressed in that one or is it addressed in state statute?
It's addressed somewhere.
As I say, I don't see in terms of
You're really
place.
supposed to be
but I'm-
restricted to your own property.
It has,
Yeah.
I think that it can only be on your own property.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it goes into the selling of them and so forth. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, good
Yeah.
good point, Bob. All right, the date of the next council meeting will be Monday, July 11th at 6 p.m. right here, and the date of the Board of Works meeting will be the same day, July 11th at 1 p.m. I would hereby entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
We have first, we have second.
I'll second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.